The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Troy Smith. I'm your regular co-host here on the Stone Zone. Roger will be joining us just in a few minutes here, but until then, we'll just be going through some of the general politics of the day. Again, I'm Troy Smith, your regular co-host, and we will be talking some general politics here. Now, the election of Donald Trump has really changed the atmosphere in this country. The people who once had their boot on the neck of the American people, particularly in COVID censorship and particularly in the wake of the 2020 election, are no longer in power. And we're seeing them kind of really being angry about that. And, you know, we really question how much influence these people actually have, I guess, at the end of the day. But one of the chief offenders here is Ellen Degeneres. And we have sad news for all you great Stone Zone viewers out there. Yes, very sad news. Ellen Degeneres has left the United States. Yes, she has fled to the United Kingdom. Sayonara, goodbye, adios. Thanks for playing. You know, good riddance, Ellen DeGeneres. We have a video of her. It's weird, you know, she has apparently dyed her hair in light of leaving the country. So new Ellen, as you see, she's looking like Pee Wee Herman there with the dark hair. Not really sure what's going on there. Just a bizarre situation. And I think most people, you know, will look at that and say, what in the world is going through her mind? Maybe she's really losing it. And I think that kind of speaks to what's happened with the American left in this country in wake of Trump. You know, they're really losing their minds, and any prospect of their what's left of their identity, whether that be MSNBC or, you know, other means, Twitter. So we've seen a mass exodus. One of the most amazing things I've seen post-election is that the prominent Democrats, mainly the people on MSNBC and really, you know, the bagmen for the Democrats on CNN, they are really pushing this app called Blue Sky. Now, we've talked about this here. It's an alternative to X. It's basically like True Social, and we compared it to True Social in that it's almost, you know, politically motivated social media platform, as something that helped Trump quite a bit in this last election. And it appears to me that the Democrats have kind of seen what happened with Twitter and have seen what happened with True Social. And there's a two-pronged approach here with Blue Sky. They want to, one, take the celebrity off, the celebrities that they can control at least, off of Twitter to make it as least effective as possible going forward, because they realize that the power of this platform is really limitless. And the idea that Elon Musk continues to put his brain behind it and his dollars behind it, it's going to be a powerhouse for years to come. I think that's going to happen regardless of whether the celebrities are there or not. Like George Takei, who I question, you know, is this guy even a celebrity? He's on Star Trek 40 years ago. You know, I'm not sure that really qualifies you for a celebrity status. Maybe you're a former celebrity, but you know, these are people who are desperate for money. They're desperate for attention, and that's why the Democrats really have a stranglehold on them. So those people have left Twitter, and that's the goal. They want to take some of the more influential people on Twitter that are under the heel of the Democrats and take them away so that X is less powerful. And they also see it as a threat or a counter to True Social, which was, as I said earlier, very influential in this election and very important for President Trump. People forget, you know, before the return to his account, you know, on X under Elon Musk, True Social was the only way that Trump could communicate with the United States and the people of this country for years. It's something that we have to keep in mind. It's something we have to remember, and it's something that we can't forget. And that's why this clip in particular was so funny to me, because CNN had a segment on just the other day where they were talking about the possibility of Elon Musk buying MSNBC. Now, we have a headline about this. They're claiming that MSNBC isn't for sale, but if you look at the ratings post-election here, MSNBC is experiencing a severe drought. Now, going into the election, MSNBC, I had taken notice that they were doing basically the same numbers as Fox, and we're seeing MSNBC kind of emerge more and more coming to the election. And after the election now, those ratings have plummeted. And people like Ari Melber, who once had hundreds of thousands of viewers, now have 23,000 viewers, less than we get on this show. And that's on a broadcast television where there's a built-in audience. There's people that keep MSNBC on every day. There's airports everywhere that have CNN on, for example. And even CNN is clobbering MSNBC. So, they're not doing too well. And especially in a business like broadcasting media, the money's not coming in constantly. Trust me, the business is not doing well. So there's been some speculation that they may be for sale. There's been some speculation that Musk may buy them and do some trickery to turn them maybe against their former goal of only helping the Democrats and hurting Republicans and really hurting America. That's what MSNBC is all about. So let's watch these two individuals on CNN just lose their minds at the prospect of Elon Musk purchasing MSNBC. This is just classic here.
CNN contributor Carrie Champion joins us in our fifth seat. So, Carrie, I want to ask you about this idea of media takeover, because after Elon Musk purchased Twitter, changed it into X, there's no doubt that he exercised some power there. So how do you hear this even in jest kind of purchase of a cable network?
Good to be with you tonight.
Good to be with you as well.
Thanks for having me. I think that we should believe everything that is said coming from this administration. I don't think that we have the luxury to dismiss it as him being someone who's being funny or someone who is just being himself, or that is his brand. X, and you said in some ways, always. I feel like X, I don't know if anyone is on it in any capacity. I don't know if you're on it. And you're the only one? You're on it? You all are on it? Okay. I've actually decided to take a rest of peace because it is not a peaceful place for me. And I know if, in fact, you don't agree with this current administration, most people can say that it's not a peaceful place. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an actual bid made to take on MSNBC, but the fact that it just can't happen in real life.
And we just can't.
It's
not
even
for sale.
It's not officially for sale.
The last
it's not
time he
realistic.
mused about maybe buying something,
it's not even realistic in real life. But I do believe that media, everyone sitting here at this table, if you don't agree, we're in for some tough years ahead. I do believe that we are not going to be able to be as safe or say what we want to. I don't think free speech is going to be as free.
No.
The idea, this is the same line of thought with this lunatic on MSNBC, Chris Matthews, who goes up there and claims that Trump wants to have reporters lined up against the wall and shot, which is just totally, there's no realism to that. He's never said that. He's never implied that. And the idea that, and just the other day, he's talking about political pressure, and he says, oh, the guns are trained on Liz Cheney. And the press takes that and says, Trump says that Liz Cheney should be shot at. It's the same thing that they did with Roger. It's the same thing that they do with President Trump. They do this every day. They take your words and they twist them into the worst thing that they could possibly do. And they do this for clickbait purposes. We see this with Roger all the time. He's used because of his name as clickbait for people like the New Republic, people, that really struggle to make money. And so they have to basically resort to putting out shocking articles, making claims about people like Roger that just aren't true. And they have no basis in reality. And they come up with falsehoods. We have some breaking news that comes from the Biden White House today. Some interesting things happening in the transition between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, especially comparing them to the transfer of power that we had from Obama to Trump, where Obama had kind of lined up these spy agencies to go after Trump, to spy on his campaign. And we now know that people like James Comey even had spies infiltrating the Trump campaign on an intimate level with people, honeypot spies. But this transition seems to be much smoother. You don't want to talk too soon. And of course, there could be things going on behind the scenes, but it appears to be much smoother. Trump has officially filled out his cabinet picks. But news from the Biden White House today that there's going to be a ceasefire in Lebanon between Hezbollah and Israel. This is a big first step in trying to iron out what's going on. And you have to believe, folks, that just the mere presence of Donald Trump as the president-elect has put Hezbollah and Hamas on notice that these lawless criminals that went into Israel and butchered 1,200 people and kidnapped women and took them back to Gaza and raped them, or took these people and trafficked them, or any of these atrocities that these people have committed, they are in fear of being held accountable. So, of course, they're now coming to the table. I think this is a result of Trump's peace through strength policy, and because of his presence, because they know that come January 20th, there's going to be a new sheriff in town. They're getting their ducks in a row now. They are making sure that they are in the best favor of the United States that they could be, because they know when Trump comes into power, when this guard changes, that there's going to be consequences for the barbaric stuff that we've seen. So let's roll that clip of Biden making the announcement today that there's going to be a ceasefire in Lebanon.
Have some good news to report from the Middle East. I just spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel and Lebanon. I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. I want to thank President Macron of France for his partnership in reaching this moment. For nearly 14 months, a deadly conflict raged across the border that separates Israel and Lebanon. A conflict that began the day after the October 7 attack by Hamas on Israel. Hours later, at 2 a.m. in the morning, Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations backed by Iran attacked Israel in support of Hamas. Let's be clear, Israel did not launch this war. The Lebanese people did not seek that war either, nor did the United States.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. President Biden announcing this unbelievable change of the guard and this change in stance from the point of view of Hezbollah and others and Hamas, because of President Trump's presidency. These people know that justice is coming. They know there's going to be accountability for some of the horrible things that we've seen during the Biden administration. Of course, that's making them come to the table. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce that Roger Stone has arrived. I repeat, Roger Stone is in the building, so we're going to bring him in now. The host of the StoneZONE political legend. Welcome here, Roger Stone. We're proud to have you back, sir.
Troy, I appreciate your jumping in for the opening of the show. I think you're exactly right in terms of what has happened here. Now, look, I want to give Joe Biden a little bit of credit because we're all for peace and we all want to stop the killing. But does anyone think that Hezbollah would be willing to negotiate if they didn't know that very soon we're going to have a much tougher, firmer foreign policy under Donald Trump? So Trump isn't even president yet, and the peace process has begun. This is, I think, excellent news. I hope that we have similar results in the Ukraine-Russia controversy, war, because this administration seems to be moving us closer and closer and closer to World War III. Something I want to show you, Troy, that I think you'll find amazing. I think that among the president's very best appointments so far is that of Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General, to become Attorney General of the United States. Now, it's interesting that when Congressman Matt Gaetz, in what I think was an incredibly selfless act, correctly determined that the controversy over his confirmation would distract from the president's effort to enact his agenda, he gracefully withdrew. But the Trump team didn't miss a beat in their announcement of Pam Bondi as a replacement and as the next Attorney General. I want to show you something now that's pretty shocking that was brought to my attention earlier today. This is a prophecy from Chris Reed, a Christian prophet, and this happened in 2019. Let's roll that.
I'm pulling up on my phone for you. No, this is a Facebook post. You can find it on my post on Facebook. November 23rd, 2019, Pam Bondi, former Attorney General of Florida. You've been chosen prophetically by God to become a great voice for justice and fairness in America. Your days of serving this great nation are not over. Will you accept? You will rise higher than ever before to be a voice of reason and a voice for the weak. The scales of justice you hold in your hand, though despised by many, this will change, and you will fill a role in this nation to bond a divided nation together while protecting the weak and a healing balm to a wounded nation. You will be Attorney General, a general in an army to lead further exposing of corruption and evil. You have a chance to shine bright. Don't miss the time of your opportunity. Prophetic word given to Chris Reed almost exactly 5 years ago to the day.
Well, for anybody who doesn't believe in God, there you have it, an uncannily accurate prophecy regarding Pam Bondi. So anyone who has any doubt that she's going to pursue justice doesn't really understand the moment. Let's be very clear. We're not talking about retribution. Retribution isn't about revenge. It's about restoring balance, truth, and divine justice. The universe remembers every action, and the scales will always tip towards righteousness in the end. That is what we're about to see. Any of those who may be out there who are relieved that, well, maybe Matt Gaetz is stepping by means there won't be an effort to readjust the scales of justice so we have a fair, unbiased criminal justice system, doesn't understand the gumption and the capability and the courage of Pam Bondi. She's going to be an extraordinary attorney general.
Well, and Roger, I've spent a lot of time, kind of soothing a lot of people who have, there's a lot of, I would say, jealous individuals, Roger, who are out there spreading these malicious rumors about a lot of people. Susie Wiles, I remember early on, we published a piece on Slingshot News. I had published a piece, and people can go back and look at that, where we talked about her incredible career, and people had attacked her. We're seeing these targeted attacks against some of Trump's better appointments. You have to think that that's by design, right? These conspiratorial attacks that really have no basis in reality. These are coordinated attacks against people who are going to be effective against really the bonds of government that have been tying us down for so many years. This is targeted, isn't it?
I think that's absolutely true. Look, Susie Wiles took a lot of unfair incoming. People said that she was not running a good campaign, that she wasn't prepared on the issue of election integrity. She wasn't prepared to make sure the election was going to be fair and transparent. That turned out to be wrong. People said she wasn't using the resources of the campaign to the maximum benefit. Completely wrong. I'm a veteran of 13 national presidential campaigns. Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita just ran the single best campaign for president in the history of the United States, and it showed in the victory. I'd also point out that I think this is the greatest comeback in American political history. Now, it's true that in 1972, Richard Nixon won 49 of 50 states. But at that juncture, that was merely just a political campaign. Let's be clear about what Donald Trump overcame. It wasn't just an uphill climb to return to the White House, something only one president had ever successfully pulled off, that being another New Yorker, Grover Cleveland, who was elected president, then lost re-election in a disputed campaign in which his supporters insisted it had been stolen from him, and then came back for yet another successful term as president. But Donald Trump was facing something far more nefarious, that is, the use of the criminal justice system. First, they tried to bankrupt him. Then they tried to keep him off the ballot in all 50 states with no legal basis to do so. Then they tried to jail him in two completely fugazi cases in New York, and he has overcome it all to win a smashing victory, a victory that, in my opinion, shows the beginning of a total realignment in our politics. It's interesting to me that some people still see Washington and see politics along this Republican-Democrat divide, but that's not the real divide in American politics. The real divide is between an unelected globalist elite Dwight Eisenhower identified them as the military-industrial complex. He tried to warn us about them as he was leaving office, and those who are bound together by common sense. So under this new realignment, people like Dick Cheney, who, as you know, drove this nation to war on completely fraudulent evidence. He claimed falsely that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They didn't. He claimed falsely that they had obtained yellow cake uranium for the manufacture of nuclear weapons. They hadn't. He also claimed that they were somehow involved in the attack on America on 9/11. They weren't. Yet tens of thousands of Americans lost their lives and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives. That's not much of a legacy. The left used to think that Dick Cheney was Darth Vader. Now they celebrate him and his daughter, who we now know suborned perjury in the January 6th committee hearings, actually tampered with witnesses around the backs of their lawyers, and worse. And of course, there's little Adam Kissinger. He's joined the globalist forces as well. But look at the trade-off. Who do we get? Well, we get Robert Kennedy, who I think has been a crusader for a healthier America. We get Tulsi Gabbard, who actually changed parties when she determined that the party she had joined much earlier in her career. She went to the Hawaii legislature when she was just 21 years old. When she joined the Democrat Party, it was a party of peace and the party of civil liberties, the party that was concerned about the surveillance of the police state. That Democrat Party literally no longer exists. And therefore, the movement of these Democrats, Kennedy, Gabbard, former Governor Rod Blagojevich, to Donald Trump signifies this greater realignment in which party means less, but principle means a lot more. I think we're at a very historic time in that sense. Coming up, we're going to talk about the next most important appointment that the president must make. First of all, I do want to address the terrific decision by the president to appoint Scott Bessent as the Treasury Secretary. Now, I was on Newsmax yesterday, had a great interview with Carl Higbie, who has a great show there, shows the same time as our show, so I often have to see it later. But he raised the legitimate question about the fact that Scott Bessent, the man that Donald Trump chose to be his Treasury Secretary, had earlier in his business career worked for George Soros. I think this has to be seen in a proper context. Bessent worked for Soros on the business side, was never involved in any of his political or his nonprofit activities, and largely, if you examine it, worked for Soros at a time before Soros was politically involved. His business activities did what they were supposed to do, make his company and his boss a lot of money. So I had Scott Bessent on my 77 WABC radio show for an entire hour. I'd never have a guest for an hour, but I wanted to grill him personally to see whether he was the right man to be Treasury Secretary. And what I found was that people don't understand him. He is a supply sider. He believes deeply in tax reduction. He has a great interest in the role that gold needs to play in our future economic success. He fully understands that at heart, Trump is actually a free trader, but he's not afraid to use tariffs as a club, as a wedge, to ensure that we actually get a level playing field in our trade relations. We saw this late today when the president said that he was prepared to put tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico. Now, some people had their hair on fire saying, oh my God, this is horrific. No, it's the opening gambit in what is going to be a master negotiation. Never underestimate Donald Trump. He is a master negotiator. His real goal here is to make sure that our trade relationships with our neighbors to the north and the south and with China are beneficial to both countries. That's his greater goal. So Bessent turns out to be among his very best appointments. Who was riding the plane for the last 3 weeks of the campaign, helping Donald Trump shape his economic message? Well, that would be Scott Bessent. This is a great appointment. Those on the right who don't know Bessent and don't know his current thinking and the important role he played in helping the president in the final days of the campaign, I think are misreading what a great appointment that is.
Well, Roger, there's a lot of misinformation about a lot of people. And I saw you address something that I wanted to give you the chance to talk about today because I know it's been popping up again and again. And that is this fake letter that keeps going around that's accusing you of being basically against the Second Amendment. It's totally fake. And we have it here. It's been circulated by a lot of liars, a lot of conspiracy theorists. These are nut jobs that really are just pulling stuff out of the air. I guess somebody typed this up on Microsoft Word and tried to make it into a statement. Can you address this once and for all here on the Stone Zone? Debunk this, because I've seen this so many times. It's just totally fake, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, so it appears to me that somebody lifted my signature from a legitimate appeal that I put out under the aegis of my legal defense fund back when I was raising money to defend myself in the Mueller witch hunt, and have appended it to a memo that I've never seen before and most certainly did not write. That is a fugazi, as my friend Sal Greco would say. It's a fraud. It's a forgery. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, always have been, and no, I don't propose taking guns away from anyone unconstitutionally. But you're right. Here's the thing about the left. It doesn't matter how many times you disprove or debunk their lies. Just wait a couple weeks and they'll recycle them yet again. So, for example, Adam Schiff pops up on CNN last week, insisting yet again that there was Russian collusion in Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 and recycling the same lie. Well, let's go through it. High-level campaign officials in Donald Trump's campaign were sharing polling information with a Russian intelligence asset. Now, that sounds great. The problem is that it's a lie. The individual they refer to is campaign manager Paul Manafort. They claim that he shared polling with a man named Konstantin Kilimnik, and that constitutes the basis of Schiff's claim. Here are the problems with this. I've gone back and checked. The Trump campaign had no proprietary private polling information at that juncture because they had not yet taken their general election polls. So any polling information Manafort may have given to Kilimnik would have been in the public domain, things you could find online. Secondarily, as the independent journalist Matt Taibbi has absolutely proven, Konstantin Kilimnik was not only not a Russian intelligence asset, he was a U.S. intelligence asset, and he was feeding information to the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv. In fact, the information he gave them was so sensitive that his name is redacted in State Department cables reporting back to the country intelligence that he had collected on behalf of the United States. By the way, Kilimnik worked for John McCain at the Republican Institute prior to his assistance to the Trump campaign in 2016, where he worked solely, I guess, as a friend and contact of Paul Manafort. Yet there's Adam Schiff, who lies as easily as he breathes, recycling the same nonsense yet again. Here it is again in this fake letter, which I never wrote and never signed. So anybody, my own son, who's a police officer, contacted me and said, "Dad, how could you write this?" I said, "Son, I didn't write that and I didn't sign it. It's a fraud."
Well, and Roger, I think the strength of a lot of Trump's picks and the people around him is really giving a fright to people who broke the law. And one of the people that's vowed to break the law is the mayor of Denver, who has proclaimed that he's not going to allow the ICE or federal authorities to deport anybody in the city of Denver when he is mayor. We have a clip of Tom Homan on Fox News vowing to put this mayor in jail if he dares to get in the way of federal authorities doing their job to protect the American people. Want to play this and get your reaction to the strong statement from the incoming border czar, Tom Homan.
Tom, you heard this mayor out there in Colorado. I want to get your reaction to it, and I want you to be clear about who has jurisdiction, the federal government or state and local governments. And if you're a sanctuary state or city, are you breaking the law?
You're absolutely breaking law. All you have to do is look at Arizona versus U.S. You'll see these breaking law. But look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put them in jail. Because there's a statute, it's Title 8 United States Code 1324 III, and what it says is, it's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way. But we're going to go do the job. President Trump has a mandate for American people. We got to secure this country. We got to save American lives. And I find it shocking that any mayor of a city would say, President Trump's been clear, we want to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. I find it hard to believe that any mayor or governor would say they don't want public safety threats removed from their neighborhoods. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in Denver, but we're going to go and we're going to fix it. If you don't want to fix it, if you don't want to protect his communities, President Trump and ICE will.
I love Tom Homan. He's a friend of mine. He's a very tough, no-nonsense guy. He's exactly the right guy to be the immigration czar. It's ironic, of course, that if a Republican said anything like that, well, they would be accused immediately of insurrection. Kind of reminds me of when Governor George Wallace stood in the classroom door to try to stop the court-ordered integration of the schools in Alabama. It's along those same lines. By the way, the schools were successfully integrated, even though President Eisenhower had to order the National Guard to carry out the law. Tom Homan will carry out the law. This kind of grandstanding, I think, misreads the public. People who live in Denver or live in Colorado and have seen the rise of crime there, I suspect that many of them are just as upset with this invasion by illegals. And there's really no way to justify this. The most important job, I think, after Attorney General, when it comes to rebalancing the scales of justice, is that of the FBI director. When we come back from a quick commercial message, we're going to talk about who should be the FBI director and how you address the massive abuses by the FBI that were consummated against Donald Trump. First, let me say, however, that, as you know, this past week was the 61st anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. For people who are still intrigued by this important piece of history, let me recommend that you check out my book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. In this New York Times best-selling book, I use eyewitness evidence, fingerprint evidence, and deep Texas politics to make the case that there was a cabal that included the Vice President of the United States, the man with the most to gain, and because he was under investigation in two massive corruption probes, the most to lose, the Central Intelligence Agency, Big Texas Oil, and organized crime to kill John F. Kennedy. To get this book, you can go to themanwhokilledkennedy.com. That's themanwhokilledkennedy.com. There you have it. And you can get an autographed copy. I can even personalize it for you. Now, you could go to Amazon and buy this book if you choose, if you want to give your money to a multinational corporation that hates your guts. But if you do choose to buy it there, get the paperback version because it has 3 additional chapters. I strongly urge you to go to themanwhokilledkennedy.com to get your copy today. All right, let's move on to what I think is the most important job, other than Attorney General, where I think, as I said earlier, Pam Bondi is an excellent choice by the president. That, of course, would be the director of the FBI. Now, Kash Patel has been widely speculated in the press as in the running for that job. I think he's precisely the right man for the job. Lee Smith, joining us now, the author of a terrific new book. Let's lay this out. You know Kash Patel. Do we have our guest? There he is.
Hey, how are you doing? Thank you, Roger. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. So you know the story better than anyone. You wrote it in The Plot Against the President. You've written it in your new book, and you know Kash Patel. I don't think there's anyone better prepared to address the abuses of the FBI. Your incredible new book, Disappearing the President, actually documents it to an even greater level. Tell us your thinking here.
Well, Roger, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, after Attorney General, I agree with you. The FBI director is the most important job of the incoming Trump administration, and it's very important to keep in mind with both of these posts that what you need what you need to do is not only run investigations, but to be able to run investigations with a tremendous amount of incoming fire. And Cash has more than proven that he's capable of it. I mean, one of the points that I've made in Plot Against the President, and then of course the new book Disappearing the President, is that people have to engage the fight. Almost everyone likes winning, right? You find a few people who are they're happy to be sad, hangdog losers. Most people like winning, but most people aren't willing to do what it takes to win, and that means fighting. And most people just don't like it. They shy away from it. Well, not Kash Patel. Kash Patel, as I describe him, I mean, he's a longtime hockey fan and a hockey player, and he really likes mixing it up in the corners, and that's precisely what's called for. Because again, taking the incoming fire while being able to conduct very important investigations, it's very, very hard to do. Most people, when they get into it, they don't even know, like Trump's first attorney general in the first term, Jeff Sessions. I mean, Sessions had no idea what he was walking into. Most people have no idea what they're walking into. And I didn't know Jeff Sessions. I think you did, and it never struck me as a bad guy. He just didn't understand what was going to go on, how the media was going to attack him, and he just backed down, because most people do. But Kash did not back down. Kash came under lots of heat, and he not only fought, he won. He found out what happened with Russiagate, who was responsible, who were the bad actors, and they left it up to John Durham to hold people accountable. He didn't. But now it's remarkable. Kash may be presented with the opportunity to finish the work that he began in 2017 as lead investigator for Devin Nunes' committee on the crimes and abuses committed during Russiagate. So, I mean, that would be a tremendous ending to this story, a story I've been documenting since that period, since 2016, 2017. So Kash will get his man. He will get the entire conspiracy.
Lee, I think you just raised the single most important point, and that is the institutional knowledge. Kash Patel ran the investigation. Go back and look at the so-called Devin Nunes report and reread it now, and you see how incredibly accurate it was. I remember well when Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff and others tried desperately to discredit that report, but they couldn't because it was deadly accurate. Having the courage is really the key. So Kash Patel, in my view, has not only institutional knowledge, he knows exactly where the corruption is and where it took place, but he also understands the system. So I think we're ready with this clip. It's relatively brief, but let's show a little bit of Kash Patel here.
We have a platform in Russiagate 1.0 where I and Devin Nunes and others uncovered the greatest criminal conspiracy the FBI and DOJ have ever implemented and conducted, and caught them. And so now we have to go out there and educate Americans in saying the same authors of this Russiagate scandal are back at it again in positions of greater power, and we cannot fall for it. And you, the American public, must be provided not only the truth, but if you want accountability for these people who got away with it the first time, then we got to put Donald Trump back in office so we can use the Constitution on those in leadership positions in government that may have broken the law.
There you have it. It's interesting to me. I think you saw this, Lee, and I know you saw it, Troy, because we talked about it. The globalists, the deep state, tried to boom the candidacy of Mike Rogers, the former congressman from Michigan, to be FBI director because, well, they're crapping their drawers about the idea that someone like Kash Patel, who's honest, who's tough, and who knows the facts here, could become the FBI director. And then there was a cockamamie suggestion that, well, maybe we'd make Rogers the director and make Kash Patel the deputy director, which of course would not work. There was a lot of press speculation, a big buildup about Mike Rogers as being the man for this job. I wrote a piece immediately on Substack going through Roger's record as to why he was exactly the wrong guy for this job. And days later, Dan Scavino, in this case, acting in essence as a spokesman for the president-elect, said, no, Rogers is not in consideration for that job. I considered that very, very good news. But what does bother me is the efforts in the Senate to try to get out ahead of this possibility. We've seen this particularly in the case of Tulsi Gabbard, where she's being prejudged. Now, the fact that Nikki Haley, who never served her country in combat or never served her country in the military, questioning the patriotism and the loyalty of Tulsi Gabbard simply because Gabbard doesn't think that all-out war with Russia over Ukraine is a good idea, is outrageous. It is literally outrageous. You would expect that from her. I think, by the way, that it exempts her from any future leadership in the new Republican Party of Donald Trump. But then you see Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. Troy, you remember him. He's the guy who introduced the border security bill that would not have sealed our southern border. Now he's questioning whether she's qualified for this job. I found this virtually nauseating. Troy, your thoughts?
Well, Roger, just the idea that they keep pushing this border bill is like this would be an answer. As you've pointed out time and time again, this would allow millions of illegal immigrants into the country each year, kind of setting a new baseline. And I think that's really what they want. They want the norm to be millions of people pouring in. And the fact that they continue to say that this bill, which would have allowed exactly that, would have fixed the problem at the border. The problem for them at the border is that the American people have elected Donald Trump not once but twice in order to send him to Washington to fix the border, and they don't want to deal with the border because it allows them to do all kinds of things in cities and municipalities across the country where Democrats have control to basically commit fraud and to really build this political machine that allows them to take control of these areas. And I wanted to ask Lee, we have a headline here that Christopher Wray is expecting to be forcibly removed from his position as FBI director. And I have a video of Christopher Wray testifying in Congress, talking about the possibility that Trump or Biden is being spied on in the 2024 election. Now, Stefanik, who is the now been named the UN ambassador, is grilling Wray here, and he really folds under the pressure. I want to play this and then Lee, go to you and ask, do you think that Wray should be investigated? And do you think there's a possibility that Trump was spied on during this campaign?
In front of this very committee in an open session, your predecessor, Jim Comey, testified that he did not follow the proper protocol regarding the notification of Congress of the opening of the Crossfire Hurricane. That would be the counterintelligence investigation into President Trump in 2016. To address this illegal abuse of power by the FBI, this committee included direction to the FBI in the IAA requiring notification to congressional leadership of any counter-intel investigation into a federal candidate for office. Is there any counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
I would just say I'll refer you to the special counsel has.
It's not a question about the special counsel.
Right.
That's a requirement in the IAA of the FBI. Is there a counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
There's no investigation that I could confirm here, no.
Is there a counterintelligence investigation?
Again, I'm not confirming any investigation into either candidate.
Are you aware that you're required by the IAA to notify Congress of any counterintelligence investigation?
And we will comply with the law.
Have you already complied with the law? Has there been a notification?
I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
You believe you have been, or has there been a notification to Congress of any counterintelligence investigation of a federal candidate?
I believe we have complied with the law.
Has there been a counter-intel assessment conducted on either President Biden or President Trump?
Again, there's no assessment that I would confirm here in any way. I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
How about on an immediate family member, and by that I mean spouses or children, of either President Biden or President Trump?
Again, I'm not in the business of confirming, especially not in open hearings, assessments or anything like that when it comes to counterintelligence matters.
So you will confirm in the classified setting when we ask you this question of whether there's a counterintelligence investigation, because you are aware that according to the IAA, you are required by law to notify Congress of any counterintelligence investigation, not just for presidential candidates, but any federal candidate.
We will comply with the law.
So you will answer this in the classified hearing later today?
We will comply with the law.
And what's your understanding of the law?
There's a whole series of oversight requirements that we have related to counterintelligence matters. I'm not going to try to go
But
through all of
specifically
them
the
here.
notification of Congress of a counterintel investigation onto a federal candidate. What is your understanding of the law?
Again, I would want to refer to the lawyers to make sure that I'm appropriately complying with it, but I can tell you we're going to comply with the law, and my understanding is we have been.
Is your assessment that you're required to notify Congress of any counterintel investigation into any federal candidate?
I'm going to defer to the lawyers as to the precision of that.
You're the director of the FBI. They report to you. What is your understanding of the requirement in the IAA?
We're going to comply with the law, including whatever's in the IAA.
In front of this.
So there you see why President Trump is very wisely appointed Elise Stefanik to be our UN ambassador. She's tough as nails. Andrew McCabe kind of gave away the ghost here when he jumped out and said, wow, the appointment of Kash Patel to any position in the FBI would do massive damage to the agency. How could you do any more massive damage to the agency than Christopher Wray, McCabe, and James Comey have already done to it? Lee?
Well, I mean, Ray's not the worst of them. I mean, Ray to me strikes me as he's run by a whole bunch of other. It just seems like he's spineless. Look, McCabe's big concern is, and this is important, Roger, what you were saying before, what you were saying about Kash knows all the details and he knows all the documents. That's true, but Kash also knows the people. He as he explained for plot against the president and again disappearing the president. He explained that he's been in rooms with all these people. He knows how they operate. Kash walked into the FBI and he knew that Peter Strzok had done something weird because he'd been moved from one position into HR. And Kash's reasoning was, well, what happened here? What did this guy do? Was he having an affair? As it turns out, he was having an affair. So Kash knows all of these people. So Andrew McCabe has reason to be worried because Andrew McCabe did bad things as deputy FBI director, then as acting FBI director after James Comey was fired by Donald Trump. I want to come back quickly though to the clip that you guys showed because this frankly it does suggest that they were spying on, they were using a counterintelligence investigation again to spy on Donald Trump, and I have a pretty good feeling of how it worked. You'll remember all the different things that people have been saying about Iran. I mean, it is true. The Iranians have been trying to assassinate Donald Trump since he ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. But you'll remember that they reported that, we found out that the Trump campaign had been hacked. Right. So they're paying an awful lot of attention to what the Iranians are doing. And I suspect that what they may have been doing, I have no evidence right now, of course, because this would all be classified. And I don't know anyone in Christopher Wray's FBI who would tell me this. But I suspect that they may have been using this counterintelligence investigation to spy on the Trump campaign, as they did before. And I'll tell you what else is going to happen. They're going to spy. They're likely to spy on the transition team as well in the same way they did in 2016 and 2017. And that is by reverse targeting. When the Trump, as they did with General Michael Flynn, when Trump transition officials speak with foreign officials as a matter of routine collection, whether it's the Russians, the Emiratis, the Israelis, whatever, the American intelligence will be collecting on the foreigners, and they will also incidentally collect on the Americans as well. Now, what they're supposed to do, as we know, they're supposed to redact those names, mask them, minimize them, however we want to put it. But what the outgoing Obama administration did in 2016 and 2017 was they unmasked those names and then they leaked them to the press to cause a great deal of turmoil for the incoming Trump administration. And I suspect that they're going to do something exactly, that they're going to do exactly the same this time around as well. And so there should be warnings issued by Trump transition officials, especially the intelligence roles, including the new attorney general, saying, this is what we're looking for, and we're going to find it. And if anyone is doing what they did in 2016 and 2017, they're going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and they're not going to be able to walk away the way they did last time. So I think the Trump administration, I mean, certainly they're much wiser, and I imagine that they totally understand that all of these things are likely to happen again. And I'm confident that there are people who are on the ball and who are warning against this and who are defending. But these are things to be looking out for. And again, this is another good reason why to have someone like Kash Patel in there, because Kash knows exactly what to look for, and he knows how the bad guys in the Bureau operate and how the bad guys in the DOJ operate. So Kash Patel is a very important figure. And of course, he's very loyal to President Trump as well.
A very interesting story that George Papadopoulos brought to my attention that I hadn't seen, written by Kerry Pickett of the Washington Times, indicating that there was actually an off-the-books spy operation on the Trump campaign in which the FBI director, at that time James Comey, had two women infiltrate the Trump campaign in a so-called honeypot operation that reported directly to the director. There's no records of this, but a credible whistleblower has come forward and said that this predates the kickoff of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Now, if that's true, this makes Watergate look like small potatoes. I mean, first of all, what's the predicate? In other words, they were sending presumably very attractive women to infiltrate the campaign. According to the Washington Times piece, two of these women were traveling with the traveling party in Trump's presidential campaign, but they were seeking in what the Washington Times described as a fishing expedition to try to find negative information. This is more shocking than Crossfire Hurricane. Were you aware of this, or had you seen that story, Lee?
Well, I know that Kash and Devin Nunes both believe that Crossfire Hurricane, it was named that the Trump-Russia investigation was named Crossfire Hurricane when it was opened at the end of July in 2016. But both Kash and Devin believe that the operation targeting Trump began sometime as early as late 2015. So it was going on long before they opened up their official and, by the way, phony investigation of the Trump campaign. So yeah, I'm not surprised by this at all. And if you look at when they started going after George Papadopoulos, this was in the spring of 2016. So none of this surprises me at all.
Yeah, it seems to be part of the same operation in which the CIA director, John Brennan, asked the foreign intelligence agencies in the so-called Five Eyes, the English-speaking countries, to begin to monitor 26 supporters or associates of Donald Trump. I was one of those 26. So was George Papadopoulos. Again, no predicate, no evidence of wrongdoing on our part. Just the
I don't think that happened. What I mean is John Brennan and Comey were talking about the foreigners involved. That was just to validate what they were doing. There were no foreigners involved, and we know that because both Brennan and Comey were talking about, we were in touch with our foreign partners who were saying that we have this and this and that, but obviously there was no evidence on Trump Russia at all. It was all garbage. So I think that they were covering up by bringing foreigners into it. They were covering up what they were doing. And I know that people say, they were spying on Americans through the Brits or through the Aussies. No, it was all Americans spying on Americans. It's terrible. That's the really bad thing that happened. It was all them. That's the insane part of the scandal. The Brits, they had Christopher Steele, a former, failed MI6 agent. He was also an FBI informant. That's the best way to understand Christopher Steele, not as a former MI6 guy, but as an FBI informant. That's who he was, right? And then Alexander Downer, the Australian diplomat. I mean, all of these people, they were just, it's a freak show, people walking in and out left and right. But actual Five Eyes cooperation on it, nope. It was just the Americans. It was just Obama's spy chiefs. That's who it was. Really dirty stuff. And that's the kind of thing that we'd like to see Kash Patel as FBI director or somewhere, God willing, in Donald Trump's second administration. Kash get to the bottom of all this stuff and not only issue clarifications or issue a report, right? But bring charges. Whatever has not gone beyond the statute of limitations, for goodness sake, it's got to bring charges. The DOJ has to bring charges. So that's definitely something that we need. We need clarity on this entire thing that, again, that Kash and Devin both believe began sometime in late 2015.
So it appears, therefore, what they're doing is creating a cover. In other words, so they would have plausible deniability regarding their own illegal activities. One other topic I want to cover, because you've reported brilliantly on this, and that is we appear to have an Iranian influence operation inside our State Department today. This is absolutely incredible. Tell us about that.
Well, this is amazing. I mean, actually, this person started at the State Department. It's Ariana Tabatabai. She was brought in by Robert Malley, Biden's Iran envoy, and Malley has now been suspended from the Biden administration. Has been suspended for about 2 years, I guess, for mishandling of classified documents, reportedly. But Tabatabai was part of an Iranian influence operation dating back a decade. And this has been reported, including, I've reported it, but lots of other people have reported it too. Senate and the House, Republican senators and Republican House members have brought it up in all sorts of different hearings. And the Biden administration doesn't care. They haven't budged a bit. But I've spoken to different people who worked in the Trump administration in national security positions, and they've said, look, this is a very big problem, and this is a priority because it's quite possible that many of our programs and many different things have been compromised by this person. And by again, what is an Iranian influence operation at the very least, if not an espionage operation? And so this is something else that the Attorney General is going to have to investigate. And this is something that the FBI is going to have to look into. And right now we hear that there's an FBI investigation on Robert Malley, right? What that has meant for the last 8 years, when there's an FBI investigation, what it means is if they're targeting the right, that they're going to hurt that person, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Roger Stone, whether it's General Michael Flynn, they're going to hurt that person. When we hear there's an FBI investigation of someone on the left, like Hunter Biden, it means that they're burying the whole situation. So that's what they've done. They've buried what Malley did and what Tabatabai may have done under what they call an FBI investigation. It's just absolute nonsense. So the next FBI director actually has to get in there and get to the bottom of what's going on, of what happened here, because it's very, very important. Again, the idea that all sorts of national security programs may have been compromised by an Iranian influence operation. And it's weird, Roger, I'm so glad you brought this up because of course, the mainstream media isn't talking about it. And even we on the right tend to forget how bizarre this case actually is. And she's still there at the Pentagon. So yeah, this is a very serious priority, not just for the FBI, but it's also going to come, it's the Pentagon, DOJ, DNI, CIA. I mean, it involves an investigation with a whole bunch of different agencies.
In fact, we had some news reports just several days ago, maybe 10 days ago, that Tabatabai had leaked to the Iranians internal documents regarding the Israelis' response to the attacks on them and the Israelis' plan, showing the damage that can be done. This is the biggest spy scandal since Alger Hiss. And you are one of the few reporters who has scratched the surface on this. Your reporting has really been breathtaking. Folks, I do want to recommend Lee Smith's incredible new book, Disappearing the President. It's breathtaking. I zoomed through it and then I started from the beginning and had to read through it again. This is the single best compendium that outlines the incredible effort that really begins even earlier, but around the time Trump comes down the escalator to undo his presidency and the most incredible abuse of power. The greatest single dirty trick in American political history, in which the full authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence agencies were utilized using what they knew was fabricated evidence in an illicit effort to remove a duly elected president. You have done an amazing job of cataloging this in your new book. I highly recommend it to you folks. Grab it while you can. Lee Smith, thank you so much for joining us today in the Stone Zone. God bless you for filling in here quickly. And Troy, thanks for jumping in at the top of the show. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.